All right, let's talk about the difference between genetics, epigenetics, and nutrigenomics. Your genetics is the DNA that you're born with. This is hardwired and this does not change. It shows you where your weakness lies, but that does not mean that this will definitely happen. Let me give you an example. If someone has an APOE gene, that means that they have a higher risk of Alzheimer's and metabolic inflammation. If somebody has the FTO gene, that means they have a higher risk of obesity and metabolic syndrome. This is commonly known as the obesity gene, which by the way I have. And that is why, not just from my research and my clinical practice, but from my personal experience, I can tell you that just because you have a gene doesn't mean that it's actually going to happen. Now, epigenetics decides which gene turns on and which genes turn off. Now, this is where the magic happens, because epigenetics decides whether your genetic weakness actually plays out. And a lot of your lifestyle levers can influence your epigenetics. For example, sleep, stress, emotional regulation, circadian rhythm, protein intake, micronutrition, inflammation, toxins, gut microbiome, hormones, and physical training. All of these factors decide whether a risk gene gets activated or stays quiet, which means if two people have the same gene, one may actually get the disease and the other may not. And like I always say, 80% of your long-term health is actually epigenetics and not your genetics. Now, nutrigenomics is how your diet and nutrition influences your genes. This is the bridge between your genes and your lifestyle. It's how nutrients, amino acids, polyphenols, antioxidants influence how your genes are expressed. For example, the most common MTHFR gene variant, if this exists, that means your methylated pathway is impaired, and you can support this by supplementing with methylated B9, methylated B12, and a methyl donor. The other example is if you have a GC gene variant, that means your vitamin D binding capacity is low, and you can simply counteract this by intaking high doses of active vitamin D3. And this is why nutrigenomics is highly actionable. While you cannot change your genes, you can change the environment that they operate in. So in simple terms, genetics is the blueprint, epigenetics decide whether this blueprint gets built, and nutrigenomics gives you the tools to change your genes expression. If you want to get started and make epigenetic and nutrigenomics changes to optimize your health, then connect with me, link in the bio.